Throughout my life, I've experienced a lot of life-changing events, whether that was a divorce or job loss or job change or location change. Grew up in a town my whole life and ended up having to move all over the state to chase my career. On top of that, trying to raise my kid from far away, having to drive 10 hours a weekend just to see him, spend time with him, watch him do bad at school, and knowing I have to come home and change my whole career and come back. I've been through a lot of really unique life changes for different reasons, and I'm thankful for all of them, and I wouldn't change any of them. But in that process, I spent a lot of time alone trying to figure out a lot of these things, these different emotions I went through. Why did this relationship fail? Why did that marriage fail? Why, why do I struggle with finance? Why do I struggle with all kinds of things? And what I want to throw this video together for was to walk you through a series of books that I highly recommend. I've listened to, and I'm an Audible guy. I don't like to sit and read. I'm very busy all the time, but I like to listen. So I've listened to probably over 100 titles, and these ones that I'm going to share with you, I'm going to share with you why I picked them and how I think they might help you, and to give you kind of a scenario of if this is something you're going through, this book may be very helpful to you. These ones were the top of the top. I recommend them to everybody. If I get into deep conversation with people, whether it's about spirituality, about sales training, people interaction, drive at work, relationships, whatever it is, these are the top books that, in my opinion, taught me the most and I got the most out of. And I think if you are interested in any of these topics, they're definitely worth looking into, either reading or getting the Audible. There's one, when I get to it, I'll explain to you, you're better off getting it in an Audible just because it's a more interactive book, or it's read by the author, and it's really interesting because they more or less talk to you through it instead of read the book. But to get this started, I want to kick this off with religion. I was raised Catholic, very strict Catholic, and I get in conversations with people who were Christian and went away from Christianity and came back, and they're non-denominational. They've left their strict religion, and now they're doing a more, I would say, more inviting religion, one that's less strict. And I went through the same struggle, asked myself a lot of questions, and there's one particular book that really stood out to me. There's two that I would recommend. The first one is There Is a River, the story of Edgar Cayce. This is what the cover of this book looks like. This is a really long book. It's a 13-hour listen, but it's incredibly interesting. It's about a psychic. He's a holistic, and he was also just like me. He was raised under strict religion, and he started to identify, this really unique ability to transmit information from the other side through his psychic abilities. And he was scared of it and thought he was the devil. And it's a really long book, but it's well documented. He had his own hospital. You can look it up. It's out in Virginia Beach. You can still stop in there and go through the catalogs and see the notes from his readings over his years of what he did. But it's an incredibly interesting book that sheds a whole new light on Christianity and spirituality and your connection with our Creator. Another book that I would read in conjunction with that is a book called Conversation with God, A Strange Dialogue. Another great book. I don't have it in front of me here, but I'll attach it into this video so that you can go through it. It's another one that just kind of opens your mind to a different perspective of religion and spirituality. I'm not implying that any of them are right or wrong, but I do feel that we're all entitled to our opportunity to go out and research and come up with our own version of what we feel connects us with our Creator. And these books had a very huge impact on me, and just really interesting. I know it's a 13-hour read, super long, but it'll keep you dialed in the whole time. It's a really interesting book. I will say the one that I bought had kind of a dry voice to it, and that was probably the toughest part about listening, but the story was great. The next topic I want to talk about would be finance. I've always been chasing the dollar. I'm looking for that best paying career, looking for all these things in life that I think I had to have. And Not saying any of it's wrong, not saying that the pursuit was wrong. This is literally has nothing to do with that, but it was more or less understanding, you know, how I was raised versus how other people are raised. Why are there wealthy kids that stay wealthy and poor kids that stay poor? And in looking into that and trying to understand it better, I came across, this is hands down the number one finance book I would recommend to everybody. You have your kids watch or listen to this book or read it. There's also a board game that goes with this book. It's by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This is an amazing book. This book teaches you the difference between what an asset is and a liability. And it's not what you think. A lot of times we're being told what certain things are, and it really teaches you about, how to define what an asset is, how to define what a liability is. It also teaches you, how to use money to make money, and that not debt is only bad when you use it to not purchase an asset. And then if you don't know what an asset is and you can't define an asset and you're making the wrong purchases because you've been brainwashed or told your whole life that certain things are an asset when they're not. They're not creating any wealth or producing value to you in any way, shape, or form. This book really helps you understand that. And the story that it tells, he has his rich dad and his poor dad. And his poor dad is his highly educated, well-to-do, great career dad who ended up dying broke. And his rich dad was his friend's dad, who was an entrepreneur and taught him how to leverage OPM, other people's money, which is through loans, bank loans, investors. And he's one of the largest billionaires that's in the United States today. And he did that through leveraging other people's money. And it's a really interesting book. I think it's a great read for anyone who wants to know more about finance and better understanding of that. Board game is really cool. I played it with my kid. It's kind of like a really advanced version of Monopoly, but it teaches you, again, the difference between an asset and a liability, and how to identify those things and really learn what's going on with your finances. The next book that I want to go into, before I jump to that one, another one, it's mindset around money. When I grew up, I was always told money is evil, it's the root of all evil. I don't believe that at all. I think it's wrong. I think money is an amplifier. I think if you're evil, it'll make you more evil. It gives you the ability to be more evil. I think if you're a great person, it gives you the ability to be an even greater person. And I think it's really important that you understand that, because I spent my whole early part of my life feeling like if I ever were to get rich, I was going to ruin my family's life and my kids' life, because everybody that has money is bad and awful, and I just focused on the wrong things. And through this process, I learned to focus on the right things. I focus on other families that are really successful, that have successful children that were wealthy from the get-go. And it's not about having the money, it's about being a great person and raising your children right. That's really all it is. And understanding that money is an amplifier. It's not good, it's not evil, it's nothing. It's just a thing that gives you more ability to be better or more of who you are. So if you're POS, you're going to be a bigger POS. If you're a really great person who gives and does wonderful things for people, you're going to do more of that. So I would encourage you to really build your relationship with money. And one of the best books that I had for that was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. This is a wonderful book. This book teaches about the psychology of money, and there's a bunch of others that'll stem off of this, but these are the key books that I would recommend right out of the gate if you're interested in any of these topics. Next one I would say would be the topic I want to cover. This one was a really interesting book, and this one was when I was getting into working out and fitness and trying to really be healthier, be better, be smarter, be more about developing me so that my value goes up. This was a really interesting book. It's a fictional platform, but it's based on factual data that they've collected from billionaires and millionaires. These are habits of highly successful people, but this is a storyline that makes it really interesting. This book was hard to put down. I actually read this one. I didn't listen to this one. I read this one. This one was really, really good. I've recommended it to a lot of people. I've bought it and given it to a lot of people, but it's an amazing book. It's called The 5 a.m. Club. And this one, it's by Robin Schmira. This one's a really good book because what it does is it teaches you that getting into a sequence and a repetition, a process of waking up early, and it says 5 a.m. I wake up at 4 a.m. because I become so addicted to living this way. It's such a peaceful time to be awake. People are like, oh man, waking up so early, it sucks. It does to get used to, but once you do it, you can really see the value in it, because at 4 a.m., from 4 till 8 a.m., 7 a.m., if you got kids, nobody's around. Your phone's not ringing. You're not getting emails. You're not being distracted. There's nothing going on. There's no expectations of you. The world's not moving. If you're a business owner, if you got anything going on, everything's at a standstill. So you can truly relax and work on you. And whether that's getting into a workout routine, this thing talks about how important that is, and the different science behind how that helps your mind be free. Or if it's spiritual, spending time with God, spending time praying, spending time reading the Bible, or if it's any number of these things, if it's meditation, if it's spirituality, whatever they are, it's this key time in the morning to fill your cup. You've heard people say before, you can't give people something you don't have, and you got to keep your cup full. If you're a busy stay-at-home mom, or you're a busy business owner dad, or business owner woman, whatever the case may be, you're going to find that waking up early in the morning gives you time to get ready, get charged, and be able to be the best person you can be for that day. And one thing I found working out right away in the morning, and then either meditating or reading or spending time in these books, I come into my day way more energized. I'm like ready for my day. I'm awake, I'm alert, I'm ready to go. And I've noticed a difference in my life. It makes me a better person. I can tell days when I didn't make the time to wake up, or if I was up late, so I slept in. I'm not the same person I would be throughout the day. So again, this one here, this really hones in on it. There's a few others that are like it, but this one, in my opinion, was the best. I had a hard time putting it down. I read the whole thing, and really, really great book. Another one that goes into that is As a Man Thinketh. This is another good book. It's super small. Doesn't take long to read. This one's quick, but it's right along the same lines of that 5 a.m. Club. It's a book that focuses on how you think about yourself, and the importance of taking care of yourself and having a positive view of yourself, and building that self-esteem by taking care of yourself early in the morning and throughout the day, but essentially early in the morning. And then it just kind of sets the tone for the day, and you start to feel really good about yourself. You see the results from the gym. You start to realize, man, you communicate better. Things start clicking, and you start thinking better, and things go smoother for you. So that's another great book to add to the one for, I would say, for habits. Another one's Atomic Habits, but now we're getting a little bit far away. Those are the top two I would highly recommend for that. Another one, since we're on this topic, I'm going to jump over to Drive, like having that determination that you're never going to give up ability. This book, super interesting. Love this book. I've bought it for my kids. I've listened to this one a handful of times. Sometimes I'll listen to it over and over again. It's a good book that, if I don't want to listen to music when I'm at the gym, I'll listen to this book, because it's very inspirational for pushing yourself, becoming more, and never giving up because you want to be the top. This one here it's Relentless. This book is amazing. This book is written by the gentleman that trained Michael Jordan. So there's stories about Michael Jordan and how dedicated Michael Jordan was, and some of his other counterparts in the NBA, but just a really great book that hard to put down, and it talks about absolute dedication and drive and never giving up. And it's one of those books that will just inspire you to work harder and harder and harder and never give up, because if you truly desire to meet your goal, this is a great book to keep you inspired to work towards that goal. Next book that I want to talk about is this one was more when I was starting to kind of try to identify sales. And if you watch any of my other videos, I talk about sales a lot. Sales, I believe, are in everything, whether you're selling people on the idea you have at work for a process you need to get in place, or if you're actually selling a product. It's vitally important that you really understand people and you can read them quickly. This next book that I'm going to share with you does just that. It teaches you about personality. It teaches you about mannerisms, how to communicate, how to be patient and listen to people and genuinely listen to take in the information so you can communicate back. This one is a really great communication book, but I would say it is like number one for sales. If you want to sharpen up your sales ability, your sales techniques, this is the book. It's How to Win Friends and Influence People. This is a really, really great book. I would say this book will help you do sales. It's going to help you communicate with your wife better. It's going to help you communicate with your kids better. This communication is number one that this book will teach you about, and it's all about psychology. It's about understanding the impact of your responses, or the amount of time and attention you give, or whether there's things out in front of you when you're trying to listen to them, how that makes them feel. Like, it really just gives you this good perspective, and while reading it, you're like, yeah, okay, I can relate to that. Those things are totally legit, because you can think of them from your own perspective, and they're fact-based. Like, it's an amazing read, really great book. If you want to work on sales, communication, your ability to communicate with loved ones, friends, whatever it is, that'll enhance your ability to do that. If you're, again, I'm going to say it's stay-at-home mom. I think that'd be a huge book for you to read, and even your husband. Help you both understand each other, help you both learn how to communicate better with each other, help you to communicate better with your kids. That's another big obstacle that I think adults face, is how do you relate to your kids? They're young, you're old, you got big life problems, they got little life problems. Another book that kind of teaches that one is a good one for that. The next book I want to jump into is Relationships. I'm going to start with my second one that I would recommend. The top one I recommend is different. The reason I'm going to start with the second one is because it piggybacks the one we just talked about. And this one is The 5 Love Languages. I thought this book was really dumb. I didn't want to read it at all. Everybody was talking about it, and they're like, oh, what's your love language? And I'm like, oh, I don't know what the hell my love language is. This is bullshit. I don't want to talk about it. So I finally got to the point where I didn't like not being able to answer the questions about the book. So I got it and listened to it. And I'm actually, it's a pretty good book. It goes really well with this book. And if you're big into personality types and understanding people and knowing them and how to read them and how to communicate with them in a way that they need to be communicated with, that's a great book. It'll teach you how to communicate with people outside of love. It's a good book for understanding how to talk to people. Also a good book for your relationship, so I'm not going to knock it for that, but it definitely has its benefits that bleed into the how to communicate with people through sales, through getting people to jump on board with what you're working on at work and things like that. So another great book. Last one I'm going to do is a book that I decided to pick up after my divorce. I really wanted to make sure that whatever I did going forward, that I was more engaged in, because some of the mistakes that I feel like I made through my divorce was our communication. Me and my ex-wife, man, we would fight about the stupidest stuff, and I just couldn't understand it. I didn't know why. So I really wanted to better understand it. I wanted to get locked in. And I just wanted to be the best version of me that I could be in my next relationship. And I came across this book. And this book maybe could be a little bit controversial. It might come off as like a hookup book, but when you get towards the end of the book, it starts to talk about how all of these things that you learn through this book are ways that people stay successful in keeping marriages together, keeping marriages vibrant. It talks about different things such as, sometimes a marriage will deteriorate because a man starts to become very submissive to his wife to try to make her happy, and it's actually counterintuitive to you being able to maintain a strong sexual drive between you and your significant other. And it's because in most cases there's a feminine and there's a masculine. Usually it's the man and it's the woman. And when a man is being submissive, he's actually being feminine. So in turn, he's leaving the relationship a void of masculinity. So then in this case, women will in turn try to be masculine in the relationship because the man is trying to do something out of love and care. He's trying to let her make decisions. Sometimes she doesn't even want to make those decisions. She wants a man to step in the masculine to step in and take that role. And this could be in any type of relationship. I'm using man and woman, but it could be woman and woman, man and man. Whoever's holding that role is masculine and feminine. Doesn't matter. Either one of those is comfortable in their realm, and the other one needs to uphold theirs so that they can stay comfortable in theirs. And you can see this in a relationship where there's a really masculine man. His wife is generally very feminine. She will act very girly, and they play well on each other. But if he starts to let off on that masculinity, it'll, through science, it's going to naturally try to calibrate. And in doing that, women come off as bitchy, or the feminine, when whoever's out of their element comes off that way, right? So what this book talks about is the science behind that. And in the first few chapters or several chapters, it talks about how to use this knowledge to better communicate with women, keep them interested with you, get women, and keep them interested in you. But what I thought was really great about it, and I've recommended this to married friends to read, is towards the end, it starts to talk about how important this is, whether you're trying to hook up with somebody or just simply keep them interested. And it's very helpful for sustaining a marriage or a relationship, whatever situation you're in. It's called How to Be the 3% Man by Corey Wayne. This is a really good book. I've read it a handful of times. He recommends you read it a lot just so you kind of really absorb and understand the principles. But it was very interesting. It was very helpful. Helped me, I was married for 9 years, together for 12. I mean, I was out of the game for quite a while. So part of reading it too was just like, man, I got to kind of get my head back in the game. How do I date? How do I not be such a husband? Because in the dating world, a typical husband isn't the hottest thing to be out there dating. So, anyway, that drew me to the book, but I found a ton of value in it, and it was worth sharing. All of these books that I shared with you are the top of each one of their categories. And again, out of hundreds, I've read several or listened to several books in these categories. These ones are the standouts. These ones really taught me a lot in the amount of information they provided, and it was in a clear way, easy to understand, easy to implement. So hopefully you got, hopefully something in this video stood out to you, and it's stuff that's helpful to you. I would recommend all these books, all for different reasons. And if you want a really well-rounded way to kind of tackle life and kind of boost your spirit in all those different areas and give you some knowledge to help you maybe perform better in relationships, work, career, whatever, these are all books I would highly recommend. They've done a lot for me and helped me get through some of my harder times and helped me just kind of become a better person.